Has Gypsy Rose Blanchard been exposed for controlling her husband? It seems like everyone is turning on her at the moment, all because of a viral clip that's been going around on TikTok. So during an interview, she was basically caught telling her husband to shut up when he says something a little embarrassing about her. Gypsy is talking about what it's like spending all those years in prison and the fact that she's changed a lot over that time period. She then jokes around and says, "Oh, I went from 19 to 32 so quick. Geez, I can't believe I got so old." And this is when Ryan says, "You never went to school either." Gypsy is clearly very embarrassed about this comment and she quietly tells Ryan to shut up. But she says it under her breath while she's still smiling at the camera. After that, her husband looks completely defeated and he just puts his head down, refusing to speak. At other points in the interview, you can actually see Gypsy squeezing his arm when she wants him to be quiet. And even though the quality of the video isn't that great, it's pretty clear that she's found a way to stop him talking whenever she wants to. The whole thing seems a bit like a toxic relationship. But not only that, people in the comment section seem to believe that Gypsy Rose is becoming just as controlling as her mother. Now let's take a look at some of the top comments on that video. One person wrote, "Gypsy needs to be in therapy, not doing multiple interviews." And Gypsy is shushing Ryan the same way her mother did to her. She's doing the same nudge that Dee Dee did when she'd hold Gypsy's hand. Another person wrote, "Gypsy is manipulative. She learned from her mom. If they break up, he's going to spill the beans." Now this is a pretty crazy characterization, but not everyone thinks the same way. Of course, there are some people defending her in the comments as well, saying that Ryan deliberately tried to embarrass her by saying that she never went to school. Either way, it's obvious that these tell-all interviews are not really the best thing for their relationship. For some reason, the media wants to talk to both of them, but what they end up talking about most of the time is Gypsy's life before prison. And obviously that's something that Ryan really has nothing to do with. But is it really that surprising that fans are turning on her now? The case, as we know, led to a media frenzy. Many documentaries and films were made about Gypsy and her mother, including the miniseries The Act and the famous documentary Mummy, Dead and Dearest. There are countless podcasts that have been released over the years detailing the case, and people just can't really seem to get enough of it. With this fame, even before she was released from prison, many young people have fully embraced Gypsy into stan culture or obsessive fandoms. There were countdowns to her prison release and videos glorifying her. After she started her social media presence, comments under her TikTok videos read, "We love you, Gypsy Rose," and people were calling her an absolute queen. But as we all know, fan culture is complex. Fans are often dedicated to a person and invested in how that person acts. Many think of her rise to fame as disturbing, dystopian, and strange. One TikTok creator called Veronica Skaya posted a video looking at her and the influencer pipeline, saying, "We want her to perform for us." She actually predicted that once Gypsy gains too much fame and popularity online and starts to receive things like brand deals, people will start to turn on her, wanting her to be humble. And that seems to be exactly what's happening right now. Of course, some people just hope that she stays off of social media altogether and takes the time that she needs to reacquaint herself with the world. Right now, she has 17 videos on her TikTok account with over 510 million views. And she's created multiple viral audios. The attention that she's gotten in the past 3 weeks is just pure insanity. So it's no surprise that people are starting to question, who is this person that is so admired? She's still very new to social media and already Gen Z is obsessed with her. In response to that, she said, "I'm coming into this brand new. I feel like I'm a new baby bird on the internet. I don't even know how to do all the emojis. I think they relate to me in a sense because I'm coming out and experiencing things for the first time. So all of this is just a first time experience," which is where that appeal is, the fact that she's learning about her identity while Gen Z is also learning about theirs. While she went on The View, Gypsy spoke about her life in prison and her plans to use her platform to advocate for other victims of Munchausen by proxy. So during the interview, she said, "If there is someone out there watching right now, please listen to me. Heed my words that you are not alone in this situation. There are other ways out. I did it the wrong way." And this is when things get a little awkward because she gets interrupted by Joy Behar, who seems to forget that Gypsy actually committed a real crime. She said, "No honey, no, don't say that. You had no choice really." And in response, Gypsy said, "Well, I did something wrong, and I paid my dues for it." It was only at this moment that Joy seems to remember what actually happened in the death of her mother, because then she says, "Oh, you mean that part? Oh yeah, never mind. Of course, this part of the interview went viral because of how ridiculous it was. At this point, Ana Navarro then steps in and feels the need to say that the crime itself was wrong, which just speaks to how confused Joy really was. It's great that she was siding with Gypsy, considering the fact that she was a real victim of her circumstances, but the fact that she casually almost justified the crime is a little weird. And many other celebrities have been reacting to her release from prison, like Patricia Arquette, who portrayed Gypsy's mother Dee Dee Blanchard in the 2019 drama series The Act. She's now spoken up about her reaction when she heard Gypsy was being released. She said she's all grown up and she's been through a lot, and there's a weird feeling of art imitating life and then the reality. And I think from someone who had a very specific, difficult childhood to come into this age of Instagram craziness, TikTok, I don't know, I hope it's not too much. Patricia hopes that people are gentle on her and that she's able to enjoy her freedom, because no one should ever go through that. She also said that although she was fascinated by Dee Dee and Gypsy's story because of the details of it and how they were so unnatural, apparently her own children were initially against her playing the character, who, as we all know, had Munchausen syndrome by proxy. She explained that they all knew the story and they did not want her to portray someone like that on screen. Apparently her kids were concerned that she was actually going to turn into the character when she played her. But of course, Patricia ended up taking that role despite all the skepticism, and she received an Emmy and a Golden Globe for her portrayal, so the decision paid off in the end. Joey King also wished Gypsy well after her release from prison. Joey actually played Gypsy in Hulu's series The Act, and she was recently approached by photographers asking for her opinion on the news. She reluctantly answered by saying, "I'm so happy that she's released, I'm so happy for her. She deserves freedom," although she did dodge questions about whether or not she has spoken to Gypsy or has any plans to in the future. Some fans online have been joking about the fact that Gypsy must hate Joey because of the way that she portrayed her in the series. From the outside looking in, it's clear that she did a lot of research for the role, like the voice was spot on and so were all these subtle mannerisms. But even though she put a lot of effort into it and did a brilliant job of acting, there is still that ethical question of whether or not we should even be making these true crime stories all for entertainment. Thankfully, Gypsy herself hasn't actually watched that series, and she says that she has no plans to do so. When she was asked about her decision, she said it's because she had to actually live through it. I mean, after all, she suffered her whole life. Now she's finally free from it. There's just no reason why she would want to revisit that place again. It's going to take years for her to truly move past everything that's happened, which is why it sounds traumatic for her to even watch the story based on her own life. She also spoke up about the biggest misconception in the case, which is apparently the way that her mum was portrayed on screen. She said, "I think people tend to forget, or maybe they don't even know, that the reason why my mum was able to snowblind the doctors so much and the community is because she was so friendly. In the shows, they're portraying her as mean all of the time, and that's not how she was. According to Gypsy, she was very charming and very relatable. She would give a hug to anyone, she liked to cook for people, her personality was bubbly and friendly to the outside world." But of course, we don't actually see what happened behind closed doors, where she was a completely different person. Others like Amanda Knox have also stepped forward to defend Gypsy Rose, and says that her return to normal life is kind of like a new prison, the prison of public opinion. The author and activist was convicted of the 2007 hit involving her roommate Meredith Kircher while she was studying in Italy. The now 36-year-old was freed from prison in 2011 and returned to a normal life. But she says trying to return to normalcy after being incarcerated was difficult. Amanda says she believes that Gypsy Rose's sudden rise to fame and the circumstances surrounding her mother's passing might make it difficult to overcome her years in prison. In a piece for the Free Press, Amanda wrote, "When I look at Gypsy, even though she was guilty and I was innocent, I see she is blundering into freedom in the exact same way I did. I've learned that I am more than the worst thing that ever happened to me, but where there is value in sharing my story with others, I'm entitled to do so." The same goes for Gypsy. Amanda went on to say, now that she's admitted to what she's done and served her time, she doesn't owe anybody anything. According to experts, Gypsy was a victim of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Dee Dee falsely claimed that she suffered from an array of illnesses, including leukemia and muscular dystrophy. Like we saw in the series, her mother shaved her head, forced her into a wheelchair, and even had some of her teeth removed and paraded her at charitable events like a sickly child, including fully paid trips to Disney World, all because she wanted to be a caretaker she lied about an actually induced illness in her daughter. The truth about the situation only came out after Gypsy arranged for an online boyfriend to take out Dee Dee in 2015. Now that all of this is behind her, and of course she's just trying to move on with her life like anyone else would in this situation. But what do you think about all this drama that she's now gotten into? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.